Welcome to QI. Tonight we'll be regaling you with remarkable research regarding animals starting with the letter R. We'll be doing it with these magnificent beasts, our rollicking rockfish, Maggie, Adair and Pocock. A roguish Rottweiler, Ed Gamble. A ravenous raven, Tom Allen. And Roger my rabbit, Alan Davis. Right. Let's hear their beastly buzzers. Maggie goes.
You bet.
Yeah, that's very good. Ed goes.
Fair enough.
Yeah. Tom?
That's what's happening inside my head all the time.
Alan goes. What animal do you reckon it was?
It sounds like a blue whale, surely.
I mean, what kind of boy doesn't know his blue whale from his humpback?
Oh, a humpback. Oh.
Right, now, today's show, all about animals, but Maggie, you work on the sky at night, you're a scientist, you're always looking up into space. What animal can you see here, if I show you this picture? There are people in the world, mostly Japan, China, other Far Eastern countries.
Rabbit?
It is a rabbit. I can't see it myself. Tom, are you seeing a rabbit?
I feel like it's when somebody shows you their baby scan.
Yes.
And you go like, oh, yeah, wow, it looks just like you. Just looks like that.
Yeah.
No, I can't see anything.
Sometimes even when the baby's been born, you think, no, I'm still
Just
not...
what's that?
It looks like a turnip. I don't see it, but we can superimpose...
Oh, please,
the thing on the
superimpose.
top of it, and then... see, I mean...
What?
No.
Even that doesn't look like a rabbit.
It looks like a sorrowful rabbit. It looks like the rabbit's going, oh, I'm on the moon. I have no friends.
It's like a map of the UK in a high wind.
It looks like a rabbit trying to do a magic trick where it pulls a smaller rabbit out of a hat.
Yes. Apparently, it's meant to be a mortar and pestle, and it's grinding, I don't know, herbs for the gods. In some stories, the rabbit is a companion of the goddess of the moon, who's called Chang'e, the Chinese goddess of the moon. She floated up to the moon after drinking too much elixir of immortality.
People who peddle these things, you think they ever run out of steam. She floated up to the mid... Oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. She was married to a celebrated archer who was called Hu Yi, and it was too hot. There were 10 suns in the sky, and he shot 9 of them out of the sky, so then we only had 1 left. And the goddess in charge was so thrilled with this that she gave him the elixir of immortality, but only enough for 1. So he thought, I'm not leaving my wife, that's not nice. So he put it under the bed. She drank it. Yeah, I know, it's not a happy marriage story, is it? Not really.
They couldn't split it.
Well, anyway, she floated off to the moon because he was so cross with her.
Oh,
that's been a downer, that story. OK.
What do they think the moon is?
Yeah.
I mean, does she think you get up there and it's like a sort of a Four Seasons hotel or something?
Well, it's a really good question. What do you think the moon is? Because the Samoan people believe that there was a girl called Sina, and she was a beautiful girl who thought that the moon was made of breadfruit, and there was a terrible famine, and so she asked the moon to come and feed her. The moon was annoyed, so it kidnapped Sina into the sky, and so she lives in the moon.
it's crowded up there, isn't it?
terribly
Everybody
busy.
living up there.
So she
terribly
thought
busy.
the moon was breadfruit.
Yes, she did.
So she asked the breadfruit to come to her so she could eat the breadfruit, and then the breadfruit kidnapped her because it was annoyed.
Hey, breadfruit,
Yeah, yeah.
Come down, yeah, sure, OK.
Now you're coming with me.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a good story.
When I hear about planets with more than 1 moon, I'm quite envious. Like Jupiter's got several moons.
We're well over 60, and we're
Well
finding
over
more.
60?
Oh, yeah. The outer planets tend to sort of they're bigger and they sort of more gravity and stuff like that. But you see, our moon is the best moon.
Why?
Well, compared with Earth, our moon is very big, and so it helps protect us. So asteroids, meteorites, things like that, the moon will take some of those knocks. You can see it on the craters. So the moon takes some of the knocks for us.
Like a bouncer.
Yeah, that's it. Oh, it's no way. Yeah, I'll take that. Move on.
If the Earth and the Moon perhaps were formed at a similar time and the Earth is in the Goldilocks zone with the water and the environment and the atmosphere, and so is the Moon, but the Moon, nothing.
No, a really harsh environment. But the moon's so much smaller. If you took the surface area of the moon, it's about slightly smaller than the surface area of Asia. So it's quite small in comparison. And also, being small, it's got lots less gravity. And so, yeah, if it did ever have an atmosphere, it's long gone.
So it's the size and the lack of gravity that stops it forming an atmosphere.
Yeah, also, as a result, it means the sun's rays blast it really hard. And so, for instance, temperature on the moon goes from minus 150 to plus 150. So
I had a boiler like that once.
you just can't get it right. There's nothing in the middle. I'm getting so carried away.
I'm quite interested.
Generally on this show, we know nothing, so this is a very exciting move into actual facts.
At the moment, this feels like the morning of a science exam, and Maggie's the only child who's done any of it.
Right, how might small pants affect your sex life?
My.
Any thoughts?
I'm very much enjoying the dungaree version on the far left. I don't know quite what he's going to put in that pocket. Yeah. What's going to go in there? But imagine if a painter decorator turned up dressed in that. You'd be like, oh, no, you're not taking this seriously at all.
I don't think you would be either. I have a little prop here to see if this assists you. So I'm talking about very, very small pants, OK? These are polyester underpants, and they have been used to... not these particular ones, obviously, but pants this size, used examining the sex life.
You're not asking how it would affect my sex life?
Yes, it would, it might.
What, those might?
Well, not
I'd
these.
imagine it'd completely destroy it.
This is a pair of tiny trousers, a little bit like the ones that were used by an Egyptian urologist called Ahmed Shafik. And he wanted to study the impact of various textile materials on the sex life of rats. OK. Why might he think that this was a good idea?
Funding?
Search grant. Yeah.
Well, rats are quite similar to humans. Well, in some ways. We often use them... Well, I don't. No.
They
have been used, yes.
That's absolutely right. So they had different groups of male rats, and some of them had tiny pants made of wool, some had cotton, some had polyester, some had a polyester-cotton mix, which I don't approve of.
Oh,
really.
no, that sounds very sweaty.
Yes.
Yeah, anything like that.
And then there was a control group who were obviously commando, clearly.
Of course,
Clearly the commando rats.
Letting it out there.
Yeah. And I don't know if I can say it on here, but they had little openings made for the anus and for the penis and for the tail.
You've said it. You just said it straight out.
I know. It was. Did it sound all right?
Yeah, it sounded fine. You ran with it.
Yeah.
You're saying it with a pair of tweezers in your hand.
I know. I didn't want to touch it.
Have you got a picture of a rat wearing those?
No, unfortunately, we don't. Samuel Whiskers is the best that we could do wearing a pair of pants. Anyway, the rats were selected based on their high potency, OK? I know. And so they had their sexual activity...
Fill in a form. High potency? High.
Oh, yes, that's me. So they had their sexual activity checked 4 times. So it was once before the study, then once after 6 months of wearing the pants, whichever...
6 months of wearing the pants?
And then once after 12 months of wearing the pants.
12 months?
And then finally at 6 months after the pants had been removed. So these are the 4 times that they
A
checked.
year of wearing the same pants. What were they, students?
So here's the bit of the graph that I don't care for. It's the insertion to mount ratio. So the control group and the wool group and the cotton group, it didn't seem to make any bloody difference to them at all. Their sex lives seemed to be exactly the same.
They don't have to take their pants off. They're ready to go.
No, because there's a hole that I tried to show you.
Oh, yeah.
There's a little...
Don't make her do it again.
No,
No,
don't.
that's very unpleasant.
If their partner's got the tweezers, they're
Yes,
all right.
exactly.
How do the pants with the hole in the front and the back for the tail relate to human trousers? Because I've only got 2 to 3 pairs of trousers with a hole in the front and the back.
Yeah, no. So what I'm saying is the wool was fine, the cotton was fine, the Commander, they were all fine. It's the polyester and polyester mix pants. So they showed an increase in attempted mounts, but a decrease in successful insertion.
Is it because they just slid right off?
Well, it may...
Was the other rat wearing polyester as well?
Terrible
Friction there. I mean,
Fire.
Yeah, there was a...
Does anybody remember nylon sheets? That was a very bad idea. You got into bed and slid out the other side.
if you did it in the dark, you could stroke them and they'd spark up.
Spark up.
Really? See light. Yeah, I know,
Yes.
it's like a light show.
So, darling, this is some of the issues with these polyester pants, right? Is that it generated electrostatic charges in the scrotal area. Do you see how I'm saying all of these things?
Everything about that is so sexy.
Yeah.
Wow. When you say things like that, Sandy, I mean, I don't know if they'll be able to broadcast this.
very good.
Electrostatic charges in the scrotal area. I'm just committing it to memory.
I'm going to use that one.
I've never seen a pornographic film. Do they have voiceover? Because I could do the voiceover.
I think you just
They don't
did.
have voiceover. I wish they did have voiceover.
Do you think it's like a David Attenborough nature doctor?
And here we have the plumber.
No, that's not the tool I thought he meant at all.
Surely there's audio description.
Pornography for the visually impaired.
It's possible that this electrostatic field, I'm trying to be serious about it, is responsible for reduced sexual success. That is the possibility.
Well, it would put you off, wouldn't it?
Yes. So anyway, don't wear them. I think that's fundamentally what we're saying.
Or do wear them.
Yeah.
If you've got electric shock in your balls.
Anyway, moving on. Which part of a racehorse anatomy needs to be really big if it's going to win?
His nose. A long nose is going to get you there first.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, it depends how long, right?
Yeah, but a head by a nose.
A couple of feet.
Just the whole length of the track and just going... Yeah.
What's the feature that's most directly linked to success on the track?
Oh, is it? It'll be testicles or something again, won't it?
Yeah, that wouldn't work at all.
No, if you had big testicles, that would be like bongos going down the track.
Yeah.
It would be like that executive toy, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
When they had to...
Yeah, too. And the jockey gets relaxed.
Yes. Yes, or if they swing up and hit them on the head. I mean, none of it's...
Yeah.
None of it's... No, darling, not testicles.
It's not that. OK, fine.
Anybody else? Anyone else?
Lungs, sort of capacity.
It is sort of to do with lungs.
Brain. So it
it's-
can outfox the rest of the competitors.
Takes a shortcut.
It is to do with the size of the heart. So the way that gamblers used to predict... do you follow the horses at all? Do you ever bet on the horses?
Your name's
stuff?
Bramble, that's why she's
Yes.
asking
I was quite accusatory for a sec. Do you follow horses?
No, sorry.
Just leave them alone.
Well, I love a bit of a gamble, but I don't know anything about it. But it used to be whether the horse was from good stock, so whether the parents or the siblings had won lots and lots of races. But in fact, they did some analysis. There's a man called Jeff Sedder. He's a racehorse analyst. So he collected lots of data from young racehorses and about how many races they had won, and the size of the left ventricle was the most telling physical trait. So the left ventricle is obviously the bit that pumps oxygen back out into the body, right? Right ventricle puts it back into the lungs, but it pumps it out into the body. And the size was the most critical thing. So he examined them all using ultrasound, not surgery, because that would be... that would be...
This one was great.
He would have been really fast. And it led him to predict the greatness of a horse called American Pharoah. It was an extraordinary horse. Went on to win the 2015 Triple Crown, which is a sort of grand slam of racehorsing success. So this is American Pharoah. And there was also a famous racehorse called Phar Lap. He was a sort of national celebrity in Australia during the Great Depression. And it was discovered he had a heart that was twice the size of an average horse. In fact, that heart is now displayed in the National Museum of Australia. I do hope they have other things as well. just the most successful racehorses are the ones with the biggest hearts. When the ravens leave the Tower of London, where do they go?
They're not allowed
I
to
thought
leave, are
something,
they?
the throw of the monarchy, or I think something horrible happened.
Well, it's a myth. So the notion is that they've consistently lived at the Tower since the reign of Charles II, and that he was warned the crown would fall if the ravens ever left. In fact, the earliest record that we can find of ravens at the Tower only goes back as far as 1895. And probably it was to do with the sort of raven craze that followed Edgar Allan Poe's famous poem in the 1850s. And we can't find any evidence of them being further back than that. So usually there are 6 ravens, right, in the Tower, and they get raw meat and dead mice. Special treat, biscuits soaked in blood. Anybody? There was one called George who was a repeat offender. And in 1981 he disappeared but was recaptured at the local pub. But he's not the only raven to have gone AWOL. There are wonderful stories which Christopher Scaife, the current Raven Master of the Tower, recounts in his book The Raven Master, My Life with the Ravens at the Tower of London, and he talks about how Raven Moonin escaped in 2010, but you don't need me to tell you about that because he is here himself. Raven Master, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming. Tell me about Moonin's escape. What happened?
I was a little bit worse for wear one morning when I was getting the ravens up. And it was at a time when I was going through some minimum wing trimming. And Moonin herself wasn't trimmed up very much. And when I opened up the enclosure, she got out and flew off.
And was it OK?
No.
No.
No, she flew off. and she disappeared for 7 days. She was eventually found in Greenwich on the Royal Observatory.
Astronomy.
Yeah. And did she come back then? Did you take her back?
Well, she did eventually. She was caught by a member of the public and eventually returned back to the Tower of London under an ASBO. And that's where she spent the rest of her life.
Is it true that ravens play Kaplunk?
Yes. But not with plastic straws. I use spaghetti straws because it's obviously better for them.
Yeah.
And in fact, Moonin was very, very good at it. It would take her about 45 seconds or so to get the mouse out with going around and pulling out all the spaghetti.
And did you use a real mouse?
Yes, I did, yes.
OK, moving on.
With very small pants.
Because they're ravens, there are crows, and what's the other one?
Rooks.
Rooks, yes. And I don't know how to tell the difference between them.
Well, they're different species, really. A raven happens to be about twice the size of a crow, so it's like the daddy of them all the birds, really, and the most intelligent.
So here's the thing. You were supposed to be on the show before we had lockdown.
I was.
And you were supposed to be here on your wedding anniversary.
I was.
So we were very excited about this. And you've got your wife, Jasmine, with you. Hello, Jazz. Welcome to the show. How many years is it?
32.
32. Wow, that's fantastic. So anyway, because you were coming in on your wedding anniversary and you were both going to be here, we thought we'd get you a cake. So we're now here, finally doing this show. 5 months later, we found the cake. It was still backstage.
Delicious.
The cake is there, shaped like your hat. It was a light sponge. We're going to get Tom to decide later on.
But I'll judge it, yes. But I feel like it might be quite a heavy sponge now. I think the ravens might need it soaked in blood.
But thank you both very much for coming in. How fantastic.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Lovely. Raven George was dismissed for being stark raven mad. Now, why did the Japanese import so many raccoons?
It must be something to do with some problem that they had that the raccoon could help with. A computer
No,
virus.
it all goes back to a single raccoon. There was a raccoon called Rascal the Raccoon, and it was found and raised by the author Sterling North when he was a child. And he wrote a book about it, and it was called Rascal, A Memoir of a Better Era. Back in 1963, Disney made a film of it, and then in 1977, it was released in Japan as an animated television series. And so Japanese families thought, let's import North American raccoons and have them as pets. Clearly, they had not reached the end of the series beforehand, or they would have realised this is a terrible, terrible mistake. They are unbelievably destructive and vicious. And they released them into the wild in droves, and they're now complete pests. The Japanese do have a native population of raccoon dogs, which are totally unrelated to raccoons, despite their appearance, and they call them tanuki. So the one on the right is a raccoon dog, and the one on the left is a raccoon. They are not in any way related. They're very important in Japanese mythology, so sometimes outside shops you see statues of raccoon dogs, and here are your huge testicles, OK? Not your... Sorry. I don't know why.
I knew there was a reason I'd been booked for this.
Here are your huge testicles. Who walked in the huge testicles?
What I meant was huge testicles we talked about on horses.
I can't sit comfortably anymore.
I know.
You said that.
So these statues outside shops sport huge testicles, and there we are. And
Unmistakably,
Yeah, there I am.
there's a children's song, and the song goes, I mean, I'm translating roughly here. Tan, tan, the tanuki's testicles ring. The wind has stopped blowing, but still they swing, swing. I mean, what child in the world doesn't want to...
Love that.
I know.
Love that lovely song.
even with no breeze at all.
Keep on swinging.
Wafting in the wind. Those testicles are all the better for the fact they move when there's no wind.
He doesn't look well, does he? He doesn't look well at all.
Constantly horrified by the size of his own testicles.
Or just exhausted from dragging around.
Right, moving on. Name a rock singer who doesn't have a scrotum. Do you like the width and variety of the questions I'm asking?
I mean, when I said about the balls earlier on the horse, everyone was like, no, don't be so disgusting. Why are you obsessed with talking about scrotums? Every question.
It's just a reoccurring theme.
Name a rock singer who doesn't have a scrotum.
Well, so Avril Lavigne, Pink.
Yes, darling. Quite right. No boy comes up with this. Debbie Harry, Janis Joplin, Stevie Nicks.
It does sound like an interview question from, like, 1960s Q magazine. Go on, name one rock singer without a scrotum. Go on.
It isn't an actual rock singer, although it kind of is. It's a creature called the rock hyrax, also known as the rock rabbit. It's found in Africa and in the Middle East. So the male does not have a scrotum. It keeps its testes in its abdomen. What it does have is the most fascinating system of communication, which is communicating through singing.
I'm not surprised if it's balls. It must be very high pitched. There, isn't it?
It's got about 30 syllables that it can do, wails and chucks and snorts and squeaks and tweets, and it turns it into a song that can last several minutes. And it's a bit like birdsong. It's a sort of form of self-advertising. So you can tell about its size and its age, its social status, even its hormonal state, that kind of thing. Also, baby hyraxes have to eat their parents' poo. Which is in the...
They don't have to, come
Yes,
on.
they do have to, Danny. They don't have the necessary bacteria to digest plant stuff, so a bit like baby koalas, the solution is to eat the mother's faeces.
There's got to be another solution.
Get it while it's hot. Eat that before it goes cold.
So a hyrax is about this big. Well, it's about that big.
And its
What would
poo is this big.
What would you guess their closest relative to be?
Meerkat.
Yeah, you would think that, but it's not.
Well, it's not their parents if they're making them do that.
Yeah. It's upset you, hasn't
Yeah,
it?
it's just not on.
No.
I think they could just have a yoghurt or something.
Yeah.
Something with friendly bacteria.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be much more civilised.
The nearest relative to a hyrax. Pick an animal.
Mouse, rat, cat, dog,
Huge.
raccoon,
Huge.
elephant,
Huge.
Elephant.
tiger. An elephant.
No, an elephant.
Yeah. Elephants and sea cows or manatees. They share a fairly recent common
It's going to come on a couple of years' time when science got it wrong.
Can you believe we ever thought these three things were related?
One geneticist, one wrong decimal place.
Rhodes geneticist.
One drunk geneticist.
I have that one, and that one.
Can I just say that I think the elves were a little bit drunk because they said, I said, what was the common ancestor? And they did a picture for me. Just have a look at this. This is their view of what the common ancestor was. Elephants and hyraxes have certain characteristics which they share. So elephants don't have scrotums. They keep their testes near their abdominal cavity, near their
What were you going
kidneys.
to say in the suitcase or something?
Yeah.
I thought they were meant to have their scrotums outside to keep the testes cooler, because obviously the sperm doesn't produce properly.
Humans keep them outside for that reason, but elephants
yes.
don't. Both have tusks, and instead of claws, they have the same flattened hoof-like nails that elephants do. So if you look at the feet of the hyrax, it's sort of sweet.
Yeah,
aren't
they look like they've got those slippers on.
Yes. And actually, look at the ends of the flippers on the manatee or the dugong. It has a similar sort of look to it, doesn't it?
Yes.
And both female hyraxes and female elephants have a pair of teats near their armpits.
Beg your pardon.
I know. It's not pleasant, is it? I have to
Tuck
say-
in, kids. Help yourselves.
Haven't they been through enough?
After you've had your shit,
Eat your shit first.
then you can have milk.
Now it's time for the relentless rat race that is general ignorance, so fingers on buzzers, please. What does Alan's swamp monkey use its tail for?
I'm not answering.
Well, that would be
Dangling
good instead of
from
the steps.
trees.
Instead of that,
No, so it can't swing from trees or dangle from trees. Why not?
It's a fish.
Darling, there's a picture of it right in front of
It's
you.
in the water. Could be a fish. Could behave like a fish.
The other one was like an elephant. I mean, why is not a fish? I mean,
Yes. No, its tail is not prehensile. It's not able to grasp anything, so the tail would need to be prehensile if you're going to swing through a tree. So there are different monkeys. There are old world monkeys and new world monkeys, and the swamp monkey is an old world monkey, so native to Africa and Asia. And the New World monkeys are in the Americas. Most Old World monkeys do have tails, but the tail is not prehensile, it's mainly for balance. So only New World monkeys, the ones from the Americas, have prehensile tails, and those can grab things and swing through the trees. There are lots of creatures with prehensile tails. There's the seahorses and anteaters, harvest mice, a tree pangolin, and there are also creatures with extraordinary things. So creatures with prehensile lips, rhinos have that. Harvest mice have the prehensile tail. Cats have prehensile claws. so they can grab and grasp things. The giraffe, if you have a look, has got a prehensile tongue. The most extraordinary, and I'm not going to look at Ed as I say this, tapirs have prehensile penises.
Yes, I knew someone was going to have one.
Me too.
No way. No way. With all the evolution that's gone on, someone was going to get one.
As soon as we finish here, I'm going to swing home.
What do they do with it?
I would say, why did that make them survive?
They
So
stay-
much better when you're watching the telly and you can't reach the snack.
Before the remote was invented.
It keeps them...
Put the
Coupled.
nachos a bit nearer.
It keeps them coupled.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like barbs on foxes.
Yes, or the pig, which is a corkscrew penis. I know.
Yeah, you have to get one pig and then spin the other pig in.
Right, moving on. Can you name a star that is the same size as the new moon?
A star that is the same
Size as the new moon. It's a slightly trick question.
Yes. Well, the stars are massive.
OK. At the time of recording, the planet Earth has acquired a new moon. It's a tiny asteroid, which we think has been circling the Earth for about 3 years. It's known as 2020 CD3, and it's somewhere between 1.9 metres and 3.5 metres in diameter, so it's about the same size as Richard Osman. this
Object in
That's our star. That's our star that I was
Good
trying
idea
to say.
for what to do with
You
it.
see, a star that is the same size as the new moon. Has this not made kind of space news, this...
I think one of the challenges, what do you define as a moon?
Ah, OK. We've had lots of things on this show when we...
Oh, we've had so many moons,
Yes.
honestly.
How many moons, right, how many moons would you say the Earth has? And we have variously said there are 2, which include Cruinia, a co-orbital body of
I
the
can
Sun.
remember Rich Hall sitting in that very chair
Yes.
saying, it's called the moon!
We've had many moons as an answer because
Yes.
of the small asteroids, and we've had no moons at all because, in fact, the moon and the Earth are twin planets.
Yeah,
So,
because the moon is so large, it could be sort of like a binary system, not actually sort of seen as a separate...
right, so what would you say? If you were to ask the question, how many moons would you say the Earth has, what would your answer be?
As a self-certified lunatic,
Yes.
I'll say there's only one moon, and it's the best.
Boom!
Yeah, I'm with that. Don't you vote for that? What do you think, Ed?
Yeah, one moon.
So there's a suggestion from the elves, which I think you'll like, Alan, that you get 20 restorative points to make up for all the previous moon questions that you've suffered. You are. Does that, now we've had an expert tell us there's just the one.
Well, as an opening offer, I'd
Yeah.
like to go back and...
Oh, right.
more.
Right, thanks to Maggie, we finally know how many moons the Earth has, at least till we move the goalposts again. All of which lunar lunacy brings us to the hair-raising business of the scores. So, over the moon in first place with -5, it's Maggie! In second place with -9, Tom! In third, even following the restorative points, you've got -16, Alan. I know. And in last place, not a happy bunny at all, I would imagine. No. With -17, it's Ed. Yeah. So, my thanks to Maggie, Ed, Tom and Alan, and I leave you with this quote from the High Times Encyclopedia of Recreational Drugs. A drug is a substance that, when injected into a rat, produces a scientific paper. Good night.